All right, so we have a little bonus time, and every tool helps. You guys spoke as a class, and what you want to talk about is how to identify weak feature conclusions. That's more of an outlining problem than it is an execution problem. So I want to thank you for loaning me a feature, but there are some questions to ask when you're analyzing it. The first question to ask yourself when you're trying to make sure your conclusion is going to work for you is, what kind of conclusion am I going for? If you can't name it, then you're probably not headed in a good direction. So the first question is, what kind of conclusion were you going for?
Tieback.
You're going for a tieback. That's very important. Just because you have a quote in the front and in the back doesn't make it a tieback. There are two things you usually need, and so we'll look at that. So we're going to look at this conclusion, and we're going to try to determine whether or not how to make sure our tieback works for us. And then if there's another one, then we can go from there. I'm not stressed to make sure I get it done in that period. I kind of have an issue with the quote because what you've done, well, here's what's going on. This isn't an anecdote. Like, I don't know where she is. I don't know what she's doing. So I have a character, but an anecdote means you have a character doing something at a specific place at a specific time. So if you go through that checklist, let me see if I can write that down, what I do with my pen here. So the checklist for an anecdote. You need a character. You need a location. You need the character to be doing something specific. And you need a location includes time. So let's test it. Let's run this through our checklist. I have a character, so I'm good to go there. Yay, check marks. You can do a smiley face. We'll do that too. Happy little tree. I'm doing a video, so I feel like that painter guy. All right. So what is this character doing?
Instructing.
Is that what's going on here?
She's.
I don't know, do I? All right. So maybe you didn't take a weak feature lead, which this is in danger of being, but I'm sure you took a clarity hit.
Actually, I don't think I took it.
Yeah, I would be very careful here because this isn't an anecdote. So this is just a quote, and there's no such thing as a quote lead. Now, what it looks like happened here is you snuck this by, not like deviously. It's not like you twirled a mustache before doing it, but this one fell through the cracks, but it got revealed because here you don't have her at a specific location. Well, okay, right now you have her at the Defense Information School, but I still don't know what she's doing. Okay? And anecdotes are usually past tense events. So that's another indicator. They're usually past tense events.
So kind of like recalling a certain
Yeah.
event or.
They're saying, I remember the first time I started taking classes. I remember the last time I started taking classes. I remember the last course I took, that kind of thing. So that anecdote's here. So the reason this fell apart, and what happened is this fell through the cracks, but then you get back here to this quote, and it's just a quote. Now I have more time, right? But here isn't a story about how she didn't have time. Here isn't a story about how she almost make it through a class. There's no anecdote, so you're not actually tying back to anything. And that's what happened here. And that's a common thing that happens with anecdotes. So if you go through this checklist for your anecdote, is the character, I have a character, good, I got Miss Miller. Is the character talking about, for the record of those watching, I told them it was okay to not box and tick, because this story's already been published. So even if it was misspelled, that already happened. Sorry, but someone's watching this right now going like, that's not box and tick. Why isn't he yelling? I'm not yelling because the story's already published. That being said, I have a character, but I don't, I gave you credit for having a location, but this isn't, I don't actually know, so that'd be a clarity issue. I don't know what she's doing. I don't know what she's stressed about. Cool, so that's good. done in that 15-year period. In what 15-year period? So I would have chosen to talk about the first time she tried to get a class done or the last time she tried to get a class done. Seaman Carter, what do you got?
If you would have added what she's doing, then would that location work? Because she's doing something.
Well, then I don't have a specific location. You're talking about her 15-year career.
No, because he has at the Defense Information School.
If she's telling a story about the last class she tried to take here at Dinfos, then that would have worked. But what happened is that the problem is you weren't talking about any one class. You were just talking about her life in general. But you're writing a feature. Of course, you're talking about their life in general. Anecdotes are about specific events. So does that help you guys get a better idea to decide whether or not you're moving in the right direction?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we've knocked out anecdotes, and you know what? We got time for another one. So I'm going to